Okay, so welcome everyone to this live stream. This is going to be a special one. Today we're just going to go through everything that we will utilize in order to create a realistic exterior render. I'm going to open my screen right now, and as you can see, I have a 3D model from the sketch warehouse, which we're going to customize and look at each step on how we're going to create a realistic render. Now, if you don't mind, I'm just going to wait a few seconds for more people to join in. And in the meantime, you can let me know your name in the comments, as well as where you come from. I'm going just to take off a few things from the 3D model here, like these dimensions that we don't need as of now. So it's as pure as possible for us to start working. So as you can see, the only parts that we're not going to cover for this live stream is the modeling, and that's because I don't think there's a lot I can say about that, because each project has different modeling and all of that. But there's always some rendering techniques that are applicable with every project. Okay, so right now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the SketchUp tab, which I already had opened here, and I'm going to put it on top with the Turbo Top tool. So what this Turbo Top tool does is that it keeps your Enscape tab on top even if you're working on SketchUp, and that way you can see the differences that you're making with the modeling and the materials on the Enscape window as well. Can anyone tell me if the audio is good? If you can hear me correctly, if the music is too loud or anything like that. One second. Okay, so this is the default tab that we have open here in Enscape. What I want to do here first is do the composition and kind of capture the angle that I want to take the render from. Now, first thing, in order to do that, I'm just going to go and open the visual settings, and I'm going to choose the 2-point perspective. The way that I like to think is that 2-point perspective is always the right choice for views that are taken from eye level or kind of in the mid-range of the height of the building. And if you want to take aerial images, so let's say if your render was something like this, as you can see, the image gets distorted, and this wouldn't be very applicable in our case. But in these cases where the camera is higher than the building, or it's in bird's eye view, I would always suggest you to use 3 points perspective. And as you can see, it's much better in terms of the composition. But for the sake and the purpose of this live stream, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to 2-point perspective. I'm going to tone down the field of view to something like 70. I'm going to move a little bit further back to something like this, kind of center our building. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a view right here. And I'm just going to name this render 1. Now we can close this down a little bit, and I think this would work well in terms of the composition. So let me just turn this back on here. Okay. Now the first thing that I want to take a look on is the materials. I want to make the Enscape tab just a little bit bigger, and I'm going to turn on safe frame view. Is everything correct in the stream? You can see the screen as well as you can hear me well. If someone can confirm that in the comments, please let me know. All right, so what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to turn off the sun brightness at 0. We don't need that right now. It just confuses us when it comes to the configuration on the materials. I'm going to turn on with the Turbo Top the Enscape window once again, and now we're going to go through everything. So for the asphalt material, I'm going to search for something which kind of looks like after rain effect. So to do that, I'm just going to go and open ambientcg.com, and we're going to search material type, which is wet asphalt. Now let's see if they have something in their library for us. I think we can try this one, or I'm just going to use an imperfection map. I think that can work as well. I think I can use this one, and then I can upscale a little bit. And then once I apply this on the road here, there's going to be some places that are going to look like it rained. We're just going to test this out. Obviously, I never rendered this house previously prior to this live stream, so there's going to be a lot of testing and experimentation, which makes the whole workflow a lot more relatable, because even in your projects in real life, you're not always going to have the right amount of, roughness and all of the settings without testing it out. So let's just take a quick look. So this is the fingerprint texture that we have here. I'm just gonna get these off, and then we're just gonna move on. So I'm gonna open the SketchUp tab, and I'm gonna go and open the Enscape material editor, and I'm going to choose the asphalt material. Now, in order to make it a little more, let's say, have that after rain look, I'm just going to select the asphalt material. I'm going to go ahead and use the freehand tool, and I'm just going to divide some of the parts of the asphalt right here. So something like that works, as well as let's just try a few more spots here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this material, and I'm going to duplicate it and click OK. And then I'm going to apply the new material that we just duplicated into these new spots that we have here. So let me just move this a little bit more so it fits there. And then I'm going to apply the same one right here. But obviously I want to make it appropriate to the rest of the scene, because it seems a little bit too small as of now. So let's just try this out first. All right, so we have this, and now we're going to go to the reflections category here for the material editor, and I'm going to try and just use the texture for the reflections. We put it in our desktop, and I'm just going to choose this one. So as you can see in the window right here, you can see that these parts are different from the road. Obviously, this is not what we are aiming for yet, but I think we're going on the right track. So what we can do is we can choose this. We can tone down the specular parameter, or we can also tone down the brightness of the texture. This still seems to be way too much though, so maybe we can try on just toning up the specular option once again and see if there's any difference on the road. So as of now, I think this material reflects way too much for what we're trying to achieve here. So we're just gonna leave it to something like this, and then we're just going to, let's try and make it a little bit more metallic so it blends better. I'm going to add the normal map as well. And we're just gonna leave it like this as of now. I'm just going to cut this part off completely, and then just leave this one here. I think this blends just a little bit better. I think the positioning of it is better than the one over here and the way the light distributes, but we're not gonna focus on that as of now anymore. I'm just gonna go back to the other asphalt material that we had previously, the more regular one. And this one, I'm going to make it something like 50 on the roughness. That way it kind of reflects a little bit more. And I'm going to use an albedo map for the bumps. So something like this, I believe, looks much better on the asphalt. As you can see, you can kind of tell a little bit the difference of the imperfection that we put right here. So maybe later on, we're just going to take a closer look on this and how it affects the rest of our material here. Okay, so next up, what we're going to take a look on is the curbs on the road here. I think the material, I mean the texture, the color texture is all right, but if you go just a little bit closer, it's missing some depth. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open the Enscape material editor once again. We're going to choose this as our material that we want to edit, and we're gonna use a normal map, and we're just gonna tone that up a little bit, or let me just use the type as normal map and then change it a little bit and make it a little bit more raw. Or we can also try and use a displacement map. But I think the displacement maps in Enscape as of now aren't working the best if you're using an albedo map. So they're much better if you already have like a displacement map, which you can port it online. So we're just gonna leave that as a normal map and just turn that up to the highest amount that we can, because it definitely needs some depth and irregularities. I mean, the modeling is quite good because, as you can see, it's not very regular. Not all of them have the same shape or structure in that sense. So we're just gonna leave it at that. And then the roughness, we're gonna tone that down a little bit. So just remember that most of the materials in real life have more roughness than the default settings that Enscape has. So, I mean, less roughness in that sense. I mean, they reflect more than the default Enscape settings have. So just keep that in mind. Most of the materials that you're going to use are going to need some optimizing in terms of the roughness. All right, so let's also take a look on these tiles. This seems like it's not an instance, so it's going to be much harder to actually apply the material all at once here. Let's see if I have something downloaded in my computer, because previously I was trying to use a material from the Enscape material library. So I'm going to choose this and I'm going to go right here. Let me just try and find my Enscape resources file. So just 1 second. Pavement is right here. Okay, so I do have this material right here downloaded. I'm going to choose this one and let's just see how it's going to look. I'm not sure. I haven't used this one in such a long time. I think we need to obviously make it a little smaller. So let's just try 70, which looks all right. I just think it needs a little bit tweaking on this direction. So let's just make this 70 by 70. I think it's meant to be this way, yes. Also, I don't want the orientation to be on that way. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to rotate a little bit like this. Okay, so let's just paste it onto here, and then on all of the other ones. So I'm going to have to do some manual work since, as I said earlier, this modeling was taken from the SketchUp warehouse. I think now it looks better, except on these parts right here. So let me just apply the difference in the orientation on these parts as well. We're going to do that a little bit quicker because it's kind of a time waste to do all of this stuff manually. I'm not sure why SketchUp doesn't let you apply materials in groups. I really think that's annoying. I'm not like necessarily an expert in terms of modeling with SketchUp. When I do have my projects, I do most of the work in, the raw parts, I do the modeling in ArchiCAD, which is much easier for like walls, floors, roof, and all that. So yeah. Anyway, let's just see how the material looks right now here. Obviously it's flat because I haven't applied any displacement map as of yet. I totally forgot to apply the material on this one. Can you repeat the texture rotation action? Yes, definitely. So I'm going to repeat this right here. So as you can see, all of these are oriented, at least from this view, horizontally, except this one is vertically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click to get into the group, and then I'm going to double click again until only the surface is selected. Once the surface is selected, I'm going to right click on my mouse and let me just check. because I think I can't apply that on this one. So I'm going to go here and do the same thing. And for some reason, it's not showing up on this one either. Let me just go to the previous one. Hello, Glissando. So yeah, so this one, if I go into the group and just select the surface, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to texture, position, and then once I have position, I can just use this rotation icon and just spin that around. Let me know if you have any other questions, Ale, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So I'm going to move on and just fix this one here. So after you do that action, after you rotate the texture, you don't have to actually do it on all of those. You can just pick up the material, and then the parameters of the rotation will apply onto the new surface which you will be applying the material on. Except for that one for some reason. Okay, now it's working. All right, so let me just open the Enscape tab once again. So as you can see, the pavement doesn't have much depth as of now. Hi, Ale. Glad to let me know. Feel free to type in the chat where you're watching the stream from. It really helps me a lot to just kind of know where the viewers are from. So yeah, let's just move on. So we have the pavement right here, and then we're gonna go on to our height map, and I'm going to choose the import the file. I'm going to choose a displacement map, and we're just going to see how this will affect our material. Obviously right now the parameter is way too high, so let me just tone it down to 0.2 or maybe 0.5 if that's too much. Let's try 0.4. It kind of has a little bit more depth now. Let's try to use this map with a normal map and see what happens. So right now I think there's a glitch with this version of Enscape that actually has a problem with. Thank you, Anki. Thank you. Hi India. I know a lot of viewers are from India on our channel, and there's quite a bit of users of Enscape in India. I'm going to tone this down a little bit, or maybe I'm just going to do it a little bit on the negative side of the displacement. You can hear me fine. The music is not too loud. My voice is not too loud. Is everything correct and fine in the stream? Well, let me just try and use another map here. So maybe not the displacement map, but the normal map. I think I used the wrong one previously. It must be this displacement for this. So yeah, this one is much better. So let's just leave it at something like this. And then I'm going to tune down the roughness from the map that we have here. And it will look much more, yeah, thank you, Lautaro. I remember your name. I think you're one of the first people to comment on this YouTube channel. I appreciate the support. All right, so let's just go closer to the wood material. I like the wood color. I mean, the texture and color. I'm just going to go closer to this. That way I can kind of edit it a little bit more. So just to kind of give you a heads up, usually when I do renderings, there's this order that I follow in terms of what changes have to be made first. I always like to set up the camera first. So the composition is for me the most important step in the rendering. And then from there, I like to change the materials, the lighting, apply in exterior renders at least the vegetation, and lastly do the visual settings and apply and do the rendering. This can change, the order is not very set. Obviously there's different things that can work at the same time. It's just that for me, I believe this is the best workflow that fits for me as of now. Benna says, hello, I'm from Brazil. Hi Benna, glad you joined. All right, so now I'm just going to use the albedo map for the bump map on this wood. I'm going to give it some more depth than it previously had. And then I'm going to tone down the roughness to like 40%. which makes it a lot more realistic than it previously was. Now let's also take a look to this concrete material here. I'm going to select it. I'm going to apply a bump map on this one from the albedo map and option that Enscape offers, and I'm going to tone down the roughness at like 45%. Maybe even more. So let's just see how this looks from further back. Okay, this is way too much here, so let's just go back to 45%. This fits much better. So I'm not sure what this material was meant to be. I think it was supposed to be some metal. For this, I'm just going to do like a black metal all around. So I'm just going to choose this, and I'm going to modify it real quick. I'm going to go ahead and do the image fade, make it a little bit darker, so something like this. Metallic all the way, the roughness at 30%, and or maybe what I would like to do is maybe apply some imperfections to it. So it's way too flat and way too kind of perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an imperfection for the metal, something like this, which gives it scratches. So I'm just going to download the map real quick. Yeah. And then I'm going to put the scratches material, so this one, onto the metal. Yeah, it's an old metal. I think they tried to make it like corrugated or something like that. I'm not sure. But I don't think a corrugated metal would kind of work with this type of house. I mean, it maybe does, but it doesn't seem like it as of now. I'm not sure why the texture moved here. Let me just try and apply it from somewhere else real quick, because it seems fine in Enscape, but it kind of moved in SketchUp. Let me just get done with this metal part first. So I'm just going to open the reflections part here, and then I'm going to make it as I said previously. I'm going to do metallic all the way through, and if I get close enough to it, we can kind of tell some scratches, but we can make them look a little better, or the reflection is just way too high with this map. Let me try another map. Let me try this one. So this one is kind of an inverted map. Let me see if this would help with imperfection. Not much difference. Maybe we leave the imperfections for last, just because I think we're just going to end up wasting way too much time to find the right imperfection map, and that is not our priority as of now. Okay, so we did modify this wood material. We kind of modified these ground parts. Now let's take a look on the other kind of concrete block section here. So I'm just going to choose this, and I'm going to tone down the roughness at 50%. Maybe if you turn it to dark gray. Yes, I think that would work. It's just that I'm not going to spend too much time on to finding a new imperfection map for the metal. Okay, so let's just go closer to these concrete blocks, and let's use an albedo map for the bump. Let's just get a little bit more close. And as you can see, there's some divisioning happening between the blocks, which is good for us. And then we can also tone the specular option. So these are pretty much the materials for us right here. These are concrete blocks as well, so it's the same material as there. It's just here the bump looks way too exaggerated. Or is this a whole separate material? Let me just check. Let me just select it here, because I'm not too familiar with the 3D model. As I said, I just found it randomly. Okay. And now we will also apply a, I will apply a grass material on this one. So I'm just going to tell you something real quick regarding the grass material. If you go to the material editor, the material library in Enscape, and if you go to grounds, you can find the grass materials here. And in my opinion, the best one is grass 04, but there's a slight modification that you have to do to make it look even better. So I like the kind of distribution that it has because it's more irregular, but I don't like the color that it has in terms of grass. So I'm just going to open the Enscape tab once again, and I'm going to apply the grass right here and right here as well. Oh, we also have this side. Now I can see that this roughness is way too much. So this is why it's very important to set up the composition in the beginning, because the reflections and the way that the materials act can differ. Let me just open a file on this side of my computer real quick. So let me just tone down the roughness of this. Something like this is much better. That was way too exaggerated, as I said. And now I think these weren't meant to be. I think these were meant to be wood. I'm just going to apply a plaster texture on those ones. And now my SketchUp tab is kind of freezing, but yeah. Has anyone from the chat got the Enscape Expert course? I just want to kind of know how your experience on that course has been so far. I've had a lot of good feedback as of now. I'm trying to add some new additions to that to make it even better. I'm perfectly happy with how it is right now. Just learning more stuff in Enscape that I want to include in that course. So, yeah. If you have gotten it until now, just let me know in the comment section. So I'm going to open the plaster once again. I'm going to choose the plaster 04, and then I'm going to apply it onto our walls here. So this one as well as this one. I think all these walls are meant to be white because I accidentally touched the wood material earlier and applied it to all of the surfaces. But we can move on from this. So now what I would like to do is I want this concrete blocks to be a little bit darker, so there is more contrast. I think the steps have the same material, which I don't want right now. For these steps, I'm going to use the Enscape material library, and I'm going to go to the concrete section and just use the concrete 04. 04 is the magic number. It kind of seems like that because I also use the concrete 04 for some of the surfaces. It just fits well. So for the stairs, it's just more imperfect. For this as well, and then for this as well. So you saw if I just go close to it, as you can see, this kind of fits with the stairs. Let's go back to our view here. Let me turn it on with TurboTop. It's so annoying that Enscape still hasn't figured out this feature. I mean, it's in the new updates. I'm not using the latest update in Enscape because there's some bugs that I don't like. For example, if I open a material from the material editor, it doesn't show up immediately here as selected. I have to go in the model section and search for it and all of that, and it's just way too much work. Let me just open the Enscape tab and make it full. I think we're going on the right track here. I think I want to make some changes to the composition that we have. What I would do is I would just go a little lower, so something like this I think would be much better. That's because there would be more perspective onto this underside here. So let me just go and create view and then just do number 2, I guess. So I'm going to turn on TurboTop for Enscape once again. All right, so let's just take a look on lighting. So for lighting, if you don't already know, I'm a big fan of Laser Eyes in Enscape, and I think everyone should be because it's just a no-brainer in terms of better lighting. I'm going to try and load a skybox, and I'm just going to open my Enscape resources file right here and choose an Laser Eye that would fit well with the scene. So I'm going to try this one, which I definitely don't like. It kind of has a weird tint to it. So let me just go back onto my HDRIs here and choose, maybe this one would be better. Brightest point as sun direction always makes the render a lot more realistic. I mean, it's self-explanatory. So let's just rotate it. And this doesn't look bad in terms of lighting. I want to try and use the sun brightness just a little bit, so maybe like 3%. It gives some depth, and I kind of think it's coming to life like this, so it's much better like this. I think the lighting is better, definitely, yeah. What I'm thinking of is maybe toning up the sun brightness a little bit more. Not 103, I just wanted to do 10. And now I'm just going to fill up the surroundings with trees and vegetation. I really think it would be cool to have like a cloudy version of the scene, so you would have a totally different mood. But let's just do a simple one and a more general one for this live stream, since I think this is typically the kind of lighting that most people render exterior images at. So let me just go on to the asset library, and then from the asset library, I'm just going to choose some surroundings for our landscape. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a tree here. I have the scene from a preset I bought here in Brazil. I got this for free from the SketchUp warehouse. As you can see, it's even in the search at the components, you can see I typed in minimalist house, but I think I found it with another type of search. I think I typed in contemporary house and this came up, so I just chose it for the live stream to experiment. Let me just do a quick, I'm just going to scroll down through all the vegetation. I got a new computer, and as you can see, the vegetation is not already loaded up, because I always like to download the asset library. It just saves a lot more time if you actually download the asset library through here. That way you don't always have to wait for it to load up like I'm doing right now. Let me just choose this one and put it here to cover kind of the background of the HDRI. I'm also going to use a lot of bushes on that side. And then let me try something like this in front of it to kind of give more color. Another one there. Let me try and use something like this as well. I think I want a larger one, like a buffer one. So is this better? Not really. I'm just going to delete that. I don't want to use random vegetation and just fill up our scene with random stuff. Let me just choose this one, which is a lot smaller, and just put it here. I'm just testing out some vegetation. One thing I know for sure though is that I want a tree here to kind of cover a little bit of the sky, because it's just dominating a lot right now. It's just so annoying to have to wait for the loading screens for all the assets here. I definitely will go ahead and download them after the live stream. So let's try this tree. So if I put it here, I know I will definitely have to make it a lot smaller as well. It's nowhere near the camera, right? Something like this. That's way too much now. So as you can see, this kind of frames the image. It kind of gives it more composition. So I'm going to leave this here. It also adds depth with the shadows. And then I'm going to add some more trees on the sides as well as the front. And so we're just going to go ahead and choose some more trees for over there. I want some trees that are a little smaller because that's just way too big for our scene. How can I improve grass quality in Enscape, asks Muhammad. This is a question that I get a lot. The grass quality isn't the best in Enscape. If you want the short answer, there's not much you can do. You just have to accept the fact that the Enscape quality isn't that good. You can always use the proxy or the scattering tool for more high quality grass. That takes a lot more computing power and a lot more work. Something else that you can also try is I have a shorts in the YouTube channel, which I'm going to leave the link of in the chat right now, which isn't a full solution to the problem. So I'm just gonna find it real quick. It's not a full solution to the issue that we have with the Enscape grass. Let me just go onto my channel. You should definitely check that out after. Okay, so it's this one. I'm pretty sure it's this one. Yes. So this is the link of the shorts. You try to study the place where you're creating. Do you try to study the place where you are creating the image, talking about a specific work with a specific client? I do try to study the place where the building is and where I'm going to create the image for. However, I don't limit myself to that environment. I know it's important for it to look as realistic as possible, especially when you're working with real estate agents and firms and stuff like that. But I see a lot of people like kind of trying to match the orientation of the sun. And so let's say if the sun comes from the back here, there's no way that it's going to hit the front or something like that. I don't limit myself because let's say this was a place where the entrance is north and there's not a lot of sun that comes through here. So what this would happen, some people would just take the render like this just because to make it a lot more realistic with the environment that the building is at. I just prefer to kind of look at the terrain, the surroundings, but not limit myself in terms of the capabilities that it can have with the realistic look. Okay, so now we're just going to continue with our vegetation. I see someone commented in a different language, so yeah. Hi, Cynthia. Hi. So let's just continue here. I'm going to add another tree in the back. Let's just see how that looks. I don't like it. It's just way too bright. Some of the older Enscape vegetation doesn't look the highest quality. Honestly, I would always suggest you when you're using vegetation, try to choose the more recent models that Enscape has uploaded in the asset library. At least that's what I do. I'm going to try and find the trees that I had earlier, the ones that so let's just choose the same one here. I'm going to rotate it a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, move it a little bit closer to the house, something like this. And then I'm going to add a similar type of tree over here. I kind of misplaced it, so. What version of Enscape are you using now? I think this is Enscape 3.3. I'm not using the latest version of Enscape because of some bugs that I'm not happy with. They just complicate my whole workflow a lot. Okay, and then I just want to add some more bushes behind this tree to kind of cover that background there. I don't like it. I want to use maybe this tree a little bit on the back here. Make it a lot smaller, and yeah. Enscape didn't do the best job with the latest updates with some bugs, and I think they're kind of postponing a lot of the requests that the users have. So there's still not any animated assets. There's still, you can't use multiple maps in the materials. You can't have different weather in your renders. There's a lot of features that Enscape hasn't worked on for a long time now, and I think a lot of users are kind of getting tired of it and moving on to other software. Don't get me wrong, I still love Enscape. I still think it's the best real-time rendering tool. I just think it's kind of lacking some of the features that would make it the best possible. So yeah, I still don't think Enscape is in the best version that it can be. I would appreciate if you can keep the language on the chat English, just so we would be able to understand each other here. So yeah, I'm going to add some small bushes here. It doesn't look so bad as of now. It looks obviously empty because we still haven't populated the whole scene, but it definitely can look better. Hello, Masood 608. Hello. I'm going to add a vehicle in front of the house. So let me just go to vehicles real quick, and then we're going to go back to vegetation. Also, one quick tip. A lot of the time people get too excited with the Enscape asset library or with any other software asset library, and they just try to put in the most exclusive car in front of any house, and it just doesn't fit at all. So there's a lot of times where there's small houses. There's a lot of times where there's small houses, and I see people placing the most like exotic cars or kind of like surroundings, and it just doesn't fit with the scene. For something like this, we can just choose something more regular. I get when you're trying to do like how to set real lighting. So for exteriors, I was just saying earlier, I think Azure Eyes are the best and easiest way to set lighting. Don't get me wrong, this isn't the perfect, like this isn't the most ideal lighting that we want. It's not bad. It could be better. Thanks for making the live video. Yeah, definitely. I want to make this a weekly thing and just get better at it and just practice it more. I think a lot of people can learn more from the raw footage rather than the edited videos. Obviously, some people don't have the attention span to watch a whole like 1 hour live stream or 2 hours live stream. But for the people who want to stick through it and watch the whole process, is definitely helpful. I think the way that develops improves levels. That could make it heavy as a plugin. I understand that like animated people and assets could make it more heavy as a plugin. But at the same time, I definitely, I mean, I'm not an expert in programming or any of this stuff. But what I heard as of now and what I'm reading in the forums is that it's definitely doable. It's just a matter of time, but it kind of sucks that you can't have more dynamic animations. So for your questions, how to set real lighting. As I said, the best way to set real lighting is to raise your eyes because they're based on real world. So the surroundings right here is a 360 image that was taken in real world. And you use the real light source, the sun right here. You use it as a base for the rest of the lighting that is in the scene. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you take the lighting from real life and apply it onto rendering, then the lighting most likely will be more realistic. So let's go back to our angle here. I think we can still do a better job with the landscape here. It just looks way too crowded. What is the difference between V-Ray rendering and Enscape? There's a lot of differences. V-Ray now has a GPU rendering engine as well. But until now, the main differences was that V-Ray would use CPU for rendering, which would make it more accurate with a light distribution. And Enscape, as of now, is a GPU renderer, and it's faster. It still has very good quality, but if you're just comparing the tools for which has the highest output possible, V-Ray definitely wins in that. If you're asking me which has the best time to quality ratio, I think Enscape clearly wins that battle. I haven't experimented much with V-Ray, but obviously I know it's one of the standard. It's one of the standard rendering software that people use. I'm actually just starting to get a lot more into 3ds Max, and I'm actually experimenting it a lot. I'm not using V-Ray for rendering though. I'm doing a lot of Corona rendering. I'm planning to do a lot more Enscape videos. That is definitely a plan of mine, but at the same time, I definitely plan to transition later into some more 3ds Max and Corona rendering tutorials. So yeah. What if I just copy this one, put it here, and then make it a lot larger? Do any of you here use 3ds Max and V-Ray? And if you don't use it, what do you think are the disadvantages of using 3ds Max as a rendering software? What holds you back? Is it because it's way too difficult? Is it the hardware it requires? Do you just think it's not worth the time? Because I definitely have this conversation with a lot of people, and there's a mix of people who are transitioning from real-time rendering onto CPU rendering, and there's some firms that I actually talk to, like really established rendering firms that are switching from V-Ray and Corona rendering to other real-time rendering tools, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. I think the real-time rendering tools are way more efficient and are actually fulfilling most of people's needs. But if you want to actually go for that extra mile, obviously the CPU renders are better. I'm gonna go ahead and let me just choose this one is the same one. I'm just want to look at some bushes. I'm not sure why I'm not using the categories as for now. So if you make the image a little bit bigger here, what I can say is that it's kind of flat. There's some improvements that can be made onto the materials and make them a little bit more imperfect. But how do you fix the color bleeding on Enscape? Maybe there are some tricks. Sorry for taking some time off. I think color bleeding, it's mostly in post-production. I don't think you can do much about color bleeding through Enscape directly. So yeah, I mean, color bleeding is one of the reasons why HDRIs work, right? Because a lot of the materials from the scene take the colors from the reflections that they have from the HDRI. So yeah, that's that. Let me just choose this one as well. I'm also going to try and use Turbo Top right here for the Enscape one. So the Enscape library on the vegetation has definitely gone better since the time I started to use Enscape. So that is definitely something that Enscape has gotten a lot. I definitely don't like this. I take that back. I definitely take that back. But I've seen some pretty realistic vegetation and assets from Lumion for exteriors. I really think they do a great job in terms of the vegetation for exteriors, the grass, which Enscape lacks on as of now. The Enscape grass is not the best. And it's very weird because if you get close to it, it almost looks like a rug. It doesn't even look like grass that much, right? I'm actually, since we're here, I'm going to change the color on the grass, so make it a little bit darker and a little bit more vibrant. I'll go back here. I'll take this off and I will go back to the vegetation. I think we also need something vertical here just to kind of break the contrast between the plants that we have. So I'm going to take off the categories and I'm just going to search for something a little, like, not a very long, not a very tall tree, something a lot smaller. Do you tend, if you can tell me in the comments, let's try and see this one, if this one works fine. I can just leave that one kind of more in the middle of this area. So where we have the bush, something like this looks very more irregular. As I said earlier, I'm using the 3.3, I think it's 3.3, Enscape 3.3, so yeah. I will also import someone walking towards the house right here. So the people section though, I think with the people library that Enscape has, they do an amazing job. It's very realistic. I think they are 3D, they are 3D scanning people, definitely, and uploading them onto the Enscape library. So yeah. I'm gonna try and choose something simple. So nothing too formal, no suits. Let's try this one, but on the other way around. A little bit more like this. It almost seems like he's heading towards the wall. So yeah. Maybe closer and something like this, and closer too. Okay. This doesn't look that bad. Please tell system configuration. I upgraded my computer just recently this week. So as of now, I'm using 128 gigabytes of RAM. I'm using an RDS 2060 12 gigabytes. It's nothing crazy, but I've definitely upgraded the CPU since I'm going to start and use Corona rendering a lot more. I've gotten an Intel i9 13th generation, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, let me just turn this down a little bit. I'm going to go to turbo top once again, and I'm going to choose this bush now and put it right here. Is this? No, I don't want that one. Let me just take this one once again, place it here, make it a lot smaller, and then place this one right here, make this one even smaller. That way we have some variety between the heights of the vegetation. I'm going to take these ones off completely. And now what would definitely make the render better is if we had some exterior lights. The exterior lights though would have a better effect on a nighttime rendering, which I don't think we have time for during this render, but maybe we can do that next week, or maybe next week we can do a whole another scene. I'll see. But I'll have to cover this part. I'm not sure why some of the assets are not copying correctly. Is it possible to add a new item to the Enscape asset library? You can add new items onto your own personal asset library. So that would be the custom assets, but you cannot, like, I'm pretty sure you cannot add your assets onto the Enscape library for everyone, unless you have a really good modeling and then you talk to the Enscape team and they can include it for you. So yeah, let me just make it a little bit larger. I will copy this and put it here, make it bigger. And yeah, so some things that we went through here. First off, it was composition. We changed the 1-point perspective in the 3-point perspective into the 2-point perspective to kind of have the vertical line straight. We also changed some of the materials. We applied some imperfections onto the asphalt. We changed the pavement, the curbs. We added some vegetation. We changed the configuration on the wood material, on the concrete, and all of that. And right now we have this rendering. This can definitely look better. What I really want to do is just test out just another HDRI as well. So in order to do that, I will just duplicate this preset. In this view that I'm working, do I use any objects? So Masood is asking if I'm using any lighting objects or just the sunlight. Right now, I'm only using the HDRI that I've loaded, no lighting objects. And obviously the Enscape sun, the sun brightness slider. So I'm going to try HDRI 2. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to load an HDRI here. I'm just going to try this one and see how this one fits within the scene. So this one looks quite interesting as well. I just think the sun brightness is way too high, so let's just tone it down to 5%. And this one looks quite cool as well, actually. I kind of like this one more than the other one. What do you think? Can you vote if you like? So this is HDRI 1 and this is HDRI 2. So would you vote for number 1 or number 2? So once again, this is HDRI 1 and this is HDRI 2. I'm going to wait for some of the comments to let me know which HDRI you like better, and then we'll go on from there with the rest of the project. I kind of like this the first one better, but obviously, as I said, we're gonna take a look on that later on. Yeah, you like the second one. So is this one? We have one vote for this one. I'm not sure if I can actually post a poll here. Everyone likes, I mean, 2 people like the second one better than the first one. We have one vote for number 1. There's another vote for number 2. We have 3 votes for number 2 and then 1 for number 1. So I'm just going to wait a few more seconds and let's see if we have any other more people commenting on which HDRI they like more. So right now, this one is winning. I think this one is more vibrant. Where do you get your textures? I do get textures at ambientcg.com. So here's just a few websites that I can let you know where I get my sharedtextures.com. And then I think they changed the website a little bit to always. So number 2 is definitely winning as of now. So sharedtextures.com as well as texturebox.com. So these are the 3 main websites that I get my texture from, Michael. I think Michael Hunt, yeah. And then from these 3, I use at AmbientCG the most. Megascans is good. It's definitely good. It's just that these are kind of more accessible for everyone since they're free. But yeah. Okay, so we got most of the votes for number 2. We're going to go on and complete the visual settings for the second HDRI. All right. So first off, the auto exposure seems okay. How is it, bro? Good tutorial. Thank you. I appreciate it. A quick one. How do you add strip lighting for Enscape on Revit? I don't use Revit that much. If I'm correct, in Revit, you only have the spotlight and the rectangular light. Let me know which kind of light options you have available in Revit, because I don't use Revit, and then I can kind of let you know if it's possible to create strip lighting on Enscape. The materials look more real on number 2. Yeah, I think the materials look more real on number 2. It's just that I liked the depth of number 1, but it's completely fine. So yeah, I'm going to leave auto exposure to something like this. I think the whites are way too bright though, so let me just tone that down a little bit, and then the rendering quality too. Do you ever make any texture maps? Yes, I do create some of the texture mapping on Photoshop. There's some tiles and some special requests from the clients that I cannot find on the internet, so I definitely have to create some of those in Photoshop. So yeah, I'm going to leave auto contrast on, or maybe just tone down the highlights a little bit, and the shadows, I'll leave them. Or the auto contrast seem okay. The saturation is definitely lower though, so let me try 110. This gives a lot more life to the render, I believe. And then the color temperature, Let's try this a little bit colder. I don't ever use any of these effects. Sometimes I use the vignette to make it more dramatic, but most of the time I don't use them. Shadow sharpness, I want my shadows to be as soft as possible. I also would like to tone down the sun brightness to 6% maybe. Or let's try 8. Yeah. And then from here, I'm going to turn on ambient brightness. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see next week a version of this live stream doing the same scene but in nighttime, because I definitely think we can get a nice look of this house during nighttime. The sky, there's not much that we can change here. We can kind of play a little bit with the brightness of the HDRI, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. The output, I'm going to do Ultra HD, and yeah. Let me turn on the auto exposure a little bit more. So this is just a quick tutorial. This render is not perfect by any means. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would change if I had more time and if I took it a lot more slowly. Like this part of the asphalt, I'm actually going to take that off completely right now. So I'm just going to choose this because we couldn't find a good imperfections map in the live stream. So something else that I would like to improve in this render is definitely the landscape. Is definitely maybe some furniture on the inside. It looks a little bit empty, but for the sake of time that we have now, I'm just going to kind of leave it like this, and I'm just going to create a render real quick. And then once it's exported, we're going to check it out a little bit more closely. I'm going to open a different view here for the live stream until the image renders. So let me know if you have any questions. I just want to do a little bit of a Q&A session here in the live. Let me know if you have gotten any of, if you haven't watched any of my videos previously. I just wanted to hear what kind of topics you would like me to cover in terms of the tutorials with Enscape. I will definitely be happy to include as much of them as possible, and I'll try to make the best tutorials for that. I think one of the most requested ones is the grass, as mentioned earlier, is the reflections, the curtains. I actually did a tutorial on curtains, and overall lighting. I already have a video on lighting that has done quite well. It almost has 200,000 views in YouTube. But if you want me to make another video on lighting for interior lighting as well as exterior, just let me know. So I think the image has rendered now. I'm just going to see where I uploaded it. So let me just check. Okay, so I have it opened on my other screen right now. So I think the contrast is a little bit too high on this render. I think the shadows are a bit too harsh, in my opinion. As I said, there's a lot of things that I would improve in this render. These were just a few things that I thought we could have done. So yeah, as you can see, the contrast becoming lower makes it a lot better. Maybe not that much, maybe something like this. Yeah. What do you think of the render? I think it is alright. It's not perfect. It's just a way for me to kind of showcase some of the features from Enscape that I use. But yeah. Do you have any questions? Feel free to ask me in the comment section. So I'll just going to take a few more minutes before I end the live stream here to answer any questions you might have. And let me know if you want me to make this a weekly thing where I kind of do different scenes and go through all of the settings that Enscape has. I will also answer questions and all of that. So yeah. Also, if you haven't gotten my course as of now, I would definitely suggest you to get the course. It's really extensive, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. A lot of people have improved their renders from this course, and I would definitely suggest you. It's definitely worth the money. I train my own team with this course, so the scale team gets trained through this course. Is what I use to train our team members and all of that. So definitely, if you think about getting serious with Enscape, I would definitely advise you to get the Enscape Expert course in the link in the description. It covers pretty much everything. The composition, the materials, the lighting. It has subtitles in every language that is also available on YouTube. I also included some lessons on how to get clients and all of that. So if you're interested in learning more about Enscape, you can definitely get this course. If not, that's completely fine. I will always keep uploading more and more tutorials in YouTube. So if you just want a more structured kind of lessons in Enscape, definitely try and get the course. Will you upload this lesson to your channel? Yes, this live stream will be uploaded as a video on the channel as well. So you can definitely rewind and watch it back later on. All right, so if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to end the live stream here. I want to thank every single one of you for joining this live stream. I definitely want to do this more often and make this a weekly thing, or at least a bi-weekly thing. I'm going to start doing a podcast on this channel. I already got some editors that are going to work with me to create higher quality videos, as well as be more consistent with the content. And then until now, I will see you on those videos. I will be uploading at least 2 videos this week, so stay tuned on the channel. Definitely subscribe if you're watching for the first time. If you want to learn more extensively about Enscape, get the Enscape Expert course, and I will definitely